birds ever fly over the Athens Acropolis, a claim that does not seem to be valid. Acropolis. Even Jerusalem had an Acropolis. All right? It's the top part of a city. The city basically built on a hill at the edge of the city. For defense purposes, it's raised so that it would be difficult for an invading army to climb uphill. That's why they were usually at the edge of the city on a higher area. So the word Acropolis is a compound word derived from a combination of Greek words, almost literally meaning the city on the edge. For defense purposes, the settlers chose a raised point, often a steep hill, as we said, to make it difficult for an invasion. Now, in many parts of the world, these early fortifications became the nucleus of large cities extending to flat terrain around the Acropolis. Examples are the cities of Athens, Rome, Corinth, even as we said before, Jerusalem. Now, the Acropolis of Athens, though mostly associated with Greek cities, the Acropolis of Argos, Thebes, ancient Corinth, can be generally used for all fortified settlements on hills, and such an area, an Acropolis found in Rome and Jerusalem, as we said, in the Celtic Bratislava, and many other cities in Asia Minor. The most famous Acropolis is the Acropolis of Athens, where the Parthenon monument dominates. Although the Acropolis was originally located in mainland Greece, its construction quickly spread to Greek colonies such as the Doric, Lato, and Crete during the Archaic period. It's well known that over the Acropolis, this holy rock, there are no birds flying, no airplanes flying over it, because of the very strong geomagnetic field which causes them to divert from this area. As we know, most of the Acropolis built in the ancient world were built on ley lines, and these ley lines have very strong geomagnetic forces. We've heard this rumor at the same time concerning the Parthenon's electromagnetic forces. I did a video concerning the columns on the temples of Greek construction. We know that most of the temples had columns, one or two rows of columns, and beyond those columns is where you had a closed area. So they have found that these columns at these temples, if you were to stand between the columns or near the columns, because of the energy, the geomagnetic energies, you would have an improved health condition. It would improve your health. You would feel stronger. And I never knew that, but that's exactly what the evidence and from the ancient times showed. That's why the Greek temples have columns. So when we put up that video, I had a comment from one of my viewers saying, is that why Solomon of the Old Testament, not Solomon, sorry, Samson, when Samson was jailed and then they brought him out and he asked to be chained to the columns of that Philistine temple, he regained his strength and he brought down the temple by pulling on the columns of the temple, and it caused the destruction of the temple and all of the demise of all those there. And the viewer asked me if Samson had an increased power from the columns of the temple? I don't know. Did Samson know that he would have more power if he was chained to the columns of the temple? I have no idea. I never even knew this. But I remember that we had gone to a monastery in just outside of Thebes, the monastery of Osios Lukas, and it was built over an ancient Greek temple. They used that site, as they do in many areas of Greece and in the ancient world. They had built churches over the old ancient temples, the pagan temples. Now we know these temples were built on ley lines with very strong geomagnetic forces. And when I was at this monastery of Osios Lukas, I was trying to take pictures, and my camera could not work. A few pictures that I took were blotched with what looked like white spots. In other words, the pictures didn't come out right at all. Something had jammed my camera. But when we left that area, before we got into the monastery, my camera was working fine. And after we left the monastery, my camera started working fine again. And I had heard of this from other people that had the similar experiences with their electrical equipment. But that was my personal testimony. Yes, something is going on with these temples built on these ley lines of the earth. So the Parthenon obviously has strong geomagnetic forces. That's why we don't see birds over there, because they'll just get confused, the poor things. Maybe get little migraine headaches in their little heads and don't know where they're going. And also, of course, helicopters, airplanes don't fly over the Acropolis for that reason. Now, there are some people that say that they have seen birds around the Acropolis. They don't know if they were flying over them or they were just around the pediments of the structure. In other words, not flying over, but somehow perhaps trying to find some breadcrumbs or something from the tourists that go there. Now, I would assume that this takes place in other areas where they had ancient temples on ley lines because of the geomagnetic forces. Again, they wouldn't have too many birds in that area, and of course, no helicopters or craft flying overhead either. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.